Well, hello everyone. I wanted to do a little painty paper, but one of the things that I've heard a lot is that people don't have a lot of supplies. So I wanted to do some fun painty paper with very minimal supplies. We're going to use some craft paint. Now I do have a bunch of colors, but we're going to use some plain old copy paper. This happens to be long because that's what I have. We're going to use a couple of brushes. Now, if you don't have a big brush and a little brush, you can do all of this with one brush, but I happen to have two brushes, and therefore I'm going to use two brushes. And then, if you've got them, a couple of paint pens. Now, you really want a black one if you've got it. If you don't have it, I'll show you what you can do with the back end of your paintbrush and some paint. So this is just a few supplies, and these happen to be old and they're starting to need to be used up, so that's one of the reasons that I'm using these today. So we're going to make some fun painty paper with just these minimal supplies. And the first thing we need to do is I need to turn this a little bit. There we go. I need some paint out of I forgot one other supply, and that is a rewards card, a plastic card. Now, if you don't have a plastic card, you can use a piece of cardboard, a piece of cereal box. But I'm going to use this to apply the first layers of paint. And I'm going to put some paint out over here on my palette. Now, why did I put it on the palette? That's dumb. I've been putting it on the paper all day, and now I've put it on the palette. I don't know. Okay, so we're just going to scrape some paint onto our paper, and we're going to add another color. And just scrape that paint on there. And all this is doing is getting down a real base layer of color. And we just want a little bit of color on our paper. So we're just going to set that aside to dry. And I go through usually and do 2 or 3 pieces, at least a few, because you want to let this dry between layers. You do not really want to have wet paint that you're working into with this. It just is a lot easier if it's all dry. Let's put a little purple on this one and call it done. And we're just, like I said, getting down a little. Uh-oh, that's a lot of paint. Oh well, I guess we wanted a lot of purple. What do you do when that happens? You take it on to the next piece of paper and scrape it off. So like so. Just use it up. And I'm not going to go on with that any further. I'm just going to lay that aside and set our paper aside. But like I said, I usually go through and do a whole bunch of pages, and then I can let them dry. And that means that I have pages that is ready for me to do my next step. And I'm going to again put out some paint over here on my palette. This time I actually am going to use it on the palette. And I'm going to take my big paintbrush and I'm going to just make some circles on my paper. And they're not supposed to be perfect circles. They're just, and you notice it's not even solid all the edges. It's just some very freehand, very quick circles. And it is good to try to get some that are big and some that are little. And you notice that it's just a few circles on there with your big paintbrush. And like I said, I usually try to have several things ready to go. So I just go on to the next piece and make some more circles. Now this time I'm not going to finish this one just because I'm running out of that particular. Oh, I'm going to use that color paint again, so we'll just get out a little more. Okay. And this is just very, very fast and very quick and very fun. And we're going to end up with some fun painty paper. Now, that's all we're going to do. And now I'm finished with my bigger brush. Now, if I didn't have a little brush or I didn't have another one, I would just use one brush all through. But for today, I actually have two brushes. And what we're going to do then, we have this nice dry piece with the circles on it, and we're going to take our little brush and we're going to make some more circles, and I have to have more paint. Never fails, I run out of paint. Oh, it looks like this one is about all gone. Okay. And we're just going to make another ring around our circles. And we are not going to worry about it being perfect. We're just going to make this ring around the circle. And you notice I'm not trying to get right along the edge. I'm just having fun. Making some circles, making some rings. It's kind of like making donuts, only you don't get to eat them. And I'm not worrying whether or not I get a real perfect coverage or anything. This is fun painty paper that we can use for our collages or something else like that. So now I have this one, and I would just go on to make circles on my next one. Now that one needs a little bit different colors, so let's see what we can come up with. How about some pretty metallic blue? And you notice I'm using the same brush. I haven't rinsed it out or anything yet. And I just go on to the next one. And I'm having fun with it. That's the thing. Have fun with it. And just, you know, make your circles. They don't have to be perfect. Actually, I like them. The less perfect they are, the more I like them. They're just supposed to have lots of fun with it. Now, one of the reasons about letting everything dry in between is that if you don't let it dry in between, then you're going to pick up some of the paint where it's thicker than others, because and we're going to go on to the next step. So I do let this dry, and I just set it aside and let it dry. And at that point, I have another one all ready for us to go on. And so you see I have a little bit of background, I have a circle, and I have a second ring, and I'm going to go on and put a third ring on here. And again, I'm just putting it on, having fun, playing with paint, playing with a brush. And this does not need a Gelli plate. You don't need any stamps. You could probably do this with your fingers or a Q-tip. Something other than a paintbrush even. Just some paint and some paper. Now come on now, I need a little more paint. And I leave some white space in between, and I just put on some paint. And if it overlaps, I don't care. I just let it. And it's just very simple, but in the end, we're going to have a really fun piece of painty paper to use in our collages. And I'm going to start this one, but then I'm just going to set it aside so that you don't have to watch me paint the whole thing. I can finish that up after a while. Okay. Now then, we've got a piece of nice dry paper with a big circle and a couple of rings, some background color. And now what we're going to do is use our pens. And these are paint pens. These are Sharpie paint pens. They are not my favorite thing in the world, but for this project, they worked really well, and they just add another little dimension. And all we're going to do is just kind of make a big old spiral in the middle of each of our circles. Just something simple, but the thing that makes it the best and most fun painty paper is when we go to black. The black, we're going to make it go big, and we're not going to worry if it doesn't make a perfect line. We're just going to spin it around and we're going to make these big circles all over our paper. Now, isn't this fun painty paper? And it didn't take very much to use to make it. No stamps, no Gelli Plate. I think I have a couple of spots. I don't have enough in there. So I just make a little circles. And we have this great collage paper. Now, what do you do if you don't have a paint pen? Not having a paint pen means we need to have some paint. So what we're going to do, and I have a couple of tools. This happens to be a dead ink pen, and the back end of it works really well. And we can use the back end of our paintbrush. Let me get some of the paint out of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put out a couple of colors of paint here that would be fun to see in the circles. And I'm just gonna, that probably not gonna be enough paint. I'm gonna use the back end of this. Now, it doesn't flow quite the same way as the paint pen, so you kind of have to make, it's not wanting to do it, is it? Okay, so let's choose a different thing we can do with it. Let's use our paintbrush. Well, okay. So, just because I want to show you, it's not wanting to do it, so we're just going to have to paint it with our paintbrush and just do a little bit of a circle with the paintbrush, adding some more layer. Now I want you to know that I tested that earlier and it worked just fine. So it may have been the color of paint that I grabbed. Hard telling. And of course it's about out. But we're just going to add another little bit, and we're just going to, there again, what's going to make this is the black. When we go in to put our black on, it kind of just makes the circles stand out. I'm just using up the paint on the edge of my paper. Okay, now we need some black. Of course, it doesn't want to open either. All these things go on when you're trying to make a video. Okay, and I'm not even going to really worry about my paintbrush. I'm just going to stick it in the black. But remember, we want our black to be big and go way out there and have lots of lines. So you can either use a paint pen or your paintbrush, and get your Painty papers. And it doesn't require much in the way of supplies, just a little paint, a couple of brushes maybe, if you've got them, paint pens. Now, Sharpie markers would work too. The thing about you need to remember about Sharpie markers is that a Sharpie marker, this type of craft paint will chew up the tip of your Sharpie marker, so the paint pens work a little bit better. But see this great Painty paper with very minimal supplies. And now you have some great collage papers. So that's my little video for today. If you like my videos, please give them a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos, please always ask for something. I'm more than willing to try to give you something special, and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. Have a great afternoon. Go make some